Good morning, everyone. Sorry, I was a bit delayed. I was jamming to the sounds of our, thank you, Joe Holt, who's our Director of Creative Services, for setting the vibe this morning. So appreciate you. So for those who I do not know, I'm Dory McWhorter. I'm the CEO of the YWCA Metropolitan Chicago, and we are absolutely thrilled to be able to welcome you to the YWCA Metropolitan Chicago and African Community Fund for Education's third annual Girls Education Conference. I'm really excited about this year's theme of evolving learning experiences in a COVID world. The YWCA Metropolitan Chicago is one of the oldest and largest human services providers in the Chicago region and an established national leader in youth educational programming. Our mission is to eliminate racism, empower women, and promote peace, justice, freedom, and dignity for all. As part of our comprehensive portfolio of services for women and families, we deliver Tech Girls and 3D, which is Developing Digital Diversity, youth STEM programs, World of Money financial education services for youth, and youth leadership programs through Voices for Illinois Children. For several years now, we've partnered with ACFE to help bring attention to issues in girls' education and to raise funds to help support strong programming here and abroad. So I really appreciate the international presence that we have today that you'll see. So as part of today's program, we'll hear from my friend and partner, Stanley Nambukua. Stanley, I'm getting better every day at pronouncing your name, but Stanley is the president and CEO of the African Community Fund for Education, and we'll hear from him shortly to learn more about their work. But first, let's take a look at what we'll experience during today's event. So we'll have a keynote presentation by Peaches Lott, the early childhood specialist at Loom Institute, on hoping, dreaming, and being with, followed by an interactive audience Q&A. Then we'll have a panel discussion featuring Sabrina Lamb, who's a founder and executive director of worldofmoney.org, Alice Johnson Kane, who's the executive director of the Mariah Fund, CJ, who's the chief executive officer at Noble Schools, and Akima James Sarr, who's the director and founder of ICRA Bilingual Academy. And this panel of illustrious leaders will be moderated by my colleague, Shelley Romberic-Lambert, Chief Reimagination Officer at the YWCA Metropolitan Chicago. And you'll also have the chance to participate in a Q&A with our panelists following their discussion. And finally, throughout the event, we'll hear from several students that have participated in YWCA Metropolitan Chicago and African Community Fund for Education programs to learn more about their experiences and the role that education has played in shaping their futures. So with that, I am pleased to turn it over to my dear friend, Stanley, as I mentioned, who is the president and CEO of African Community Fund for Education. Stanley, take it away, brother.
Thank you, Dory, and your team. Thank you for your leadership and for always making this conference a success. Dory is one of the finest women I have met in my life and career, and in my endeavor to change the world, one who has given me a mother's love and continues to inspire the work I do. Though I was born and raised in a family of girls and felt I have a role to play in the lives of women and girls, one of my greatest experiences in Chicago was to meet and connect with the women leaders at YWCA Metropolitan Chicago and to learn and grow from their mentorship. Thank you for your support and hard work. Today, we meet again having lived and experienced the world under the COVID-19 pandemic. There's more hope today than the same time we met a year ago. And your commitment to conversations like the ones we have today means a lot to the partnerships we need as we continue to fight for girls' education and equality globally. COVID-19 is one of the pertinent global threats to the education system. In remote communities, the crisis has deepened education inequality and economic disparities. Most girls who drop out of school may never return. A significant number of government policies have been changed, obviously not to accommodate the educational needs for girls, but to accommodate the COVID-19 pandemic. Our mission at African Community Fund for Education is to minimize the impact of poverty by creating empowerment opportunities for disadvantaged children in marginalized communities. For years, the ACFE has dedicated resources to helping young girls, particularly those who would not otherwise go to school if no one helps them, to get a chance to go to school through scholarship. Our leadership programs have saved girls with post-traumatic disorders, gave hope to the afflicted, and renewed the dreams of girls from disadvantaged families and communities. As you prepare yourselves to learn and share experiences with the leaders who speak today, I want you to pay attention to their stories. As my favorite poet and beloved sister, Madeline Dambakua, puts it, stories are a heartfelt capture of lived experiences. Today's speakers are leaders from diverse experiences who are supporting girls in different ways, from promoting educational interventions to financial literacy. If we can truly change the world, it is when girls are empowered and can lead. The world is changing, so let's change with it and keep our resilience in the face of adversity. I would like to thank our longtime partners for this event, the Center for Global Health at the University of Chicago and the University of Chicago International House. We're going to play a short video from our community programs. After the video, we are going to be joined by Shelley Bromberg-Lambert, the Chief Remarketing Officer at YWCA Metropolitan Chicago, who introduced our keynote speaker. Let's watch the video.
My name is Ndakaziva Murauba. I am one of the beneficiaries of ACFE program in Zimbabwe. I am so happy that I passed my O-levels, and I hope to move on and get a job for my children and to look after my family and my children. I am a married woman with 3 kids. Without school, life was not easy for me. I worked so hard to feed my children and look after the family, but the life was not easy without school. In Zimbabwe, life without school is not easy. So I trying to make ends meet, and I toil from morning to eve trying to make ends meet, but life was not easy. Luckily and lastly, I find help from the ACFE, which gives me scholarship, stationery, books and uniforms that gave me hope for the future, and I passed my O-levels. Feeding program was so important for us as we come very far with empty stomachs to school. Stationery and the school shoes and uniforms was so very important because it gives us confidence, and the shoes are so important as we come very far. We walk long distances. Now that I have passed my O-levels, I wish to go to Polytechnical College and do electrical engineering and got a professional job and earn a living and look after my children and my family.
Wow. Thank you for that video, Stanley. It really scores the importance of the work that we do. Thank you both Stanley and Dory for opening us up this morning for our 3rd annual Girls Education Conference. I'm very excited today to introduce our keynote speaker, Peaches Lott. She is an early childhood specialist at Loom Institute. Loom Institute is a wonderful organization that has been instrumental in helping the YWCA. She is going to talk to us today about why hopes and dreams are so important for young girls and what we can do to help them realize their full potential and explore the importance of being with each other and learning from each other in this post-COVID world. Peaches has over 30 years of experience in early education, teen service, and family support. Her professional development and studies last as long as her 30 years experience in the field, as she's constantly keeping up with the ever-changing field of early childhood education. Peaches believes that all children should be free to be children and that they should have the opportunity to experience playfulness. I love that about Peaches. Please join me in welcoming Peaches.
Hello, everyone. I am just so excited to be here. Shelley, thank you so much for that wonderful introduction. And thank you to everyone at the YWCA, everyone who has worked so hard and effortless to put on such a wonderful conference. So today, as Shelley said, I'm going to be talking to you a little bit, but here are a few things I want you to do. I want you to get a pen and a piece of paper. When you go to conferences, it's important to have some tools. So you may want a pen, a piece of paper, and you may want some tissue, right? Because when we start to talk about the needs of other human beings, we often are triggered in ways that, you know, have a few raindrops come from our eyes. And so not that that's what's going to happen, but I want you to be prepared and not miss anything as you may have to run off and grab those things. So thank you so much for allowing me to be with you and share space with your community. As I said before, I'm so excited and delighted to be a part of this year's YWCA Metropolitan Chicago's 3rd Annual Girls Education Conference in partnership with the African Community Fund for Education, as well as all of your other wonderful partners. My heart is so full to be able to speak to an audience of folks who are passionate or as passionate as I am about girls' education. And so to every individual working with young girls face-to-face or behind the scenes, to all of our educators, our counselors, our clergy, our social workers, funders, researchers, all of the corporate sponsors, I applaud your every effort in the work that you do to invest in the lives of our future mothers, lawyers, activists, and yes, presidents and vice presidents of these United States. And so we're here to talk about evolving learning experiences in a COVID world. Now, before we can understand how to move forward in creating learning experiences for young girls today, we must take pause and acknowledge the impact that COVID has had on the young girls, our young girls over the past year. So in March 2020, according to, and I'm not a researcher or data person, I kind of study and look at the internet and try to find as much information as I possibly can to share. But this information, according to the CS Mott Children's Hospital National Poll on Children's Health at Michigan Medicine, shared some very unique statistics. And so it stated that parents of teen girls who most of them were more likely to say that their child had a new onset or worsening of symptoms than boys. And here are some of the symptoms that they looked at. They looked at anxiety and worry. Girls outweighed boys, we're talking about during this pandemic, 36 versus 19%. Depression and sadness, girls, 31 versus 18%. Sleep deprivation or sleep concerns, girls, 24% versus boys, 21%. Withdrawing from family and friends, 14% versus boys at 13%. Now, in our society, boys are usually known to be very, more of the aggressors. And so during COVID, what has been documented is that girls have even begun to close the gap in that area with an 8% increase in 2020 during this pandemic versus boys at 9%. Take a breath to take all of that in, right? So we must take into account that our girls, as beautiful and resilient as they all are, have been on one heck of a roller coaster over the last year. So as we make plans to support them, we need to understand the traumatic impact that this pandemic has had on their abilities to even receive and understand and move forward with the types of educational experiences and opportunities that we're going to be providing them with. And so one of the things that we must do and we must understand is that all behavior has meaning. When we look at our young girls today, we need to remember the things that I just shared with you, those statistics, we need to remember that this behavior, although different, is coming from someplace. This behavior, although challenging, is coming from someplace. And so we must seek to understand that we don't understand in a more compassionate way. We also need to remember not to take it personally. This is a messy job, and it is very hard to meet everybody where they are, because as human beings, we come with our own stuff. And so we're going to talk a little bit about what it means to be present. And so we need to be present with our young girls differently. Now, I need to give my upfront contract. I am not an expert on research or data. And sometimes I really don't even understand all of the impact that that the pandemic and even our work today has on the region, the states, and even at a global platform. Sometimes, you know, I'm kind of isolated in my own silo, but this is what I do know, that we must approach how we will connect, listen, and be with young girls differently as we move forward. We will need more empathy and sensitivity than we have ever before as we are seeking to reach our young girls. And be mindful that I use the word sensitivity, and I'm not thinking of sympathy, because we want to have hope. We want to make sure that we are instilling hope and that we are having hope for our young girls in the future. So I'm going to share a little bit about myself as a young girl. So as a young girl, I remember dreaming and talking about who and what I wanted to be when I grew up. I remember having people in my life who were passionate about my future. I remember wishing and hoping and getting butterflies in my stomach when I engaged in these types of conversations. And as a matter of fact, if I want to be fully transparent, one of my favorite conversations to have with others was more about what I wanted to be when I grew up. That was my favorite conversation. So if you ask me on any given day, of course it would change and evolve depending on the experiences that I was having in my life. But my mother reminds me quite often that my first conversation with her was that I wanted to be a pilot, and I wanted to fly airplanes, and I wanted to go all over the world. And my mother said that during a conversation, she remembers me saying that I shifted from wanting to be the pilot to being the person who actually built the planes, because I wanted to name a plane after my mother. And I know you're saying, oh, how beautiful and how wonderful. And yes, because guess what? I was a dreamer. I wanted to do these things and I wanted to make things happen. And one of the most influential people in my life at that time was my mother. And I wanted to make her happy. And who doesn't want to build an airplane and put their mother's name on the side of it, right? And so as I realized that as a young girl, I was this dreamer, this wisher who was full of hope. I have a daughter, and she too has dreams, and she's so hopeful. She's 32, and I have granddaughters, one that she has blessed me with. My granddaughters, 3, 4, 6, 10, and 12. Yes, I have a lot of grandchildren. I am very blessed. But when I think about them, one of the things that comes to mind is that being a young girl today is completely different and looks and feels different than it did when I was a young girl. But something really important for me to think about is that the things that I needed as a young girl are some of the same things that my granddaughter and my daughter needs. And I'm not just talking about physical things, I'm talking about developmental things. I'm talking about those things that are the substance that gives me life. As I needed them, so does my daughter, and so do my granddaughters. And so what are you talking about, Peaches? What do you need? Well, as a young girl growing up, part of what I needed was emotional support. Young girls still need emotional support. They need to know that every emotion that they are experiencing is okay, and they all are a part of you. And that we don't look at emotions as good or bad. We look at emotions as what they are. And what our young girls need today are supporters who can help them through each and every one of those emotions and guide them as they experience them, so that those emotions do not harm them nor others. I needed social support. Today, young girls need social support. It's not always easy when things and people look different. They come from different places. They speak different languages. They have different experiences. It's not always easy to navigate that by yourself. And so I needed social support. Girls today need social support. I needed physical safety. I needed physical safety while in my home and outside of my home. And today, young girls need the same. All of these, emotional support, social support, and physical support, allow us as young girls, young women, to work to our full potential. They also allow us to take academic risk, because without them, we are busy trying to get them. And so if we don't have the emotional support, the social support, or the physical support, we're not going to be able to take the academic risk. The young girls in your care are not going to be able to take the academic risk that we put before them. So here are some things, and I've got funny stories about my life, and we can chat, give me your information, we can chat at a different time, but I remember being told, and if anybody resonates with this, go ahead and put it in the chat. I remember being told that in everything that you do, Peaches, reach for the stars. Reach for the stars. Man, I hung my hat on that statement. I began reaching and reaching. And here's what reaching looks like in the mind of a young girl. So at least in my mind, and some of you may feel this as well. To reach means to go to school, get good grades, respect adults, mind your parents. Don't hang out with the fast girls or the troublemakers. Don't talk to boys, and don't let them touch you. Do your housework, go to church, keep up with your siblings, and don't fight your siblings, because family is everything. And what I find is, so these messages in reaching for a young girl told us that as long as you do all of these things, you can be and do whatever your mind leads you to do, that this is what it looks like to reach. I was told by adults in my life that we want better for you. We want you to do things that we didn't have the chance to do, because you're strong, you're smart, you're intelligent. You will need to work hard, and sometimes even harder than others, but you can do it. Don't allow anyone to tell you what you can and cannot do, Peaches. Use what you have. Set your sights on the stars and above. Don't be ashamed of where you come from or who you are. Reach for the stars. Reach for dreams and stay focused. When you stumble and fall, Peaches, just get up, dust yourself off, never stop moving. These messages have taught young girls, including myself, many things. But in some situations, young girls have learned that they're all alone, that if anything is to happen, they only need to depend on themselves. And that's all they need. They've also learned that, sometimes it's more important to get and gain than to connect and relate. Some of these messages and some of these lessons have contributed to disconnection and judgment, self-abuse, and even shame. What I've come to believe and what I've come to understand is that reaching alone does not lead to success. I believe that secure attachment to healthy, positive people lead us on a path to whatever success will be for us. I believe that it takes a collective effort of a village, a strong village that sees the potential in every girl to have a future. However, it's so important that we remember that as we move into a different era or a different space in our own lives, that we reach back and we connect to all of the young girls who are still here on this earth and may or may not have had an opportunity to experience these positive people in their lives. It's important to create and to encourage hope and support the dreams of our young girls. So here are a couple of questions that I want you to think about. Are we preparing young girls to move in their full potential? Not the potential that you want them to have, but in their full potential. Are we preparing them for all the possibilities this world has to offer, or just a few possibilities? Are we preparing them to have a voice? Are we preparing young girls to not only have a voice, but to use that voice? Are we helping them to get connected to their purpose or our purpose for their lives? Think about that for a minute. Also, how are we telling young girls that they are always, how are we telling young girls that they do not need to always be the one that reaches? Rather, that they are the stars that are worth reaching for. What does that look like for you to say to a young girl? You don't always have to reach. You're worth reaching for. Are we creating opportunities for young women to discover who they are, deal with past and present trauma that can and has paralyzed so many and caused many of us to stop dreaming and hoping? When young women are encouraged to dream, hope, and reach, how do we drop everything and reach towards them and connect? Do we even recognize it when young girls are reaching? As I said earlier, reaching looks like this. When I show up to school, I'm reaching. When I listen to you and I obey you, I'm reaching. When I don't do the things that you told me not to do, I'm reaching. When I complete a task and I'm so proud of myself, I'm reaching. How do we refocus and reimagine what and how we teach young girls today? Well, I've got a couple of things that we can do. So here are 4 things. I hope you got that pen or that pencil. So you can do them even in the next moments that you are with a young girl. So these are not things that, you got to remember, okay, what did Peaches say? What did Peaches say? No, these things come natural. We got to work at them. Some of us need to work harder, but they're natural for us. Number 1, be present. Be present. What are you saying, Peaches? Be present. Show up. Show up for young girls. They are worth you showing up. Show up for them. And number 2, connect. Connect to the young girls. Not your agenda, but their agenda. What is their agenda? Find out. Have you asked them? Show up for them. Connect with them. Connecting even looks sometimes like getting in the puddle with them. Letting them know that you've got someone to lean on. You've got someone to laugh and to cry with. I'm here. You are worth me showing up, and you are worth me being here to do this with you. Number 3, advance. Advance the relationship. This is how we support our young girls. Not just this moment, but what will be the next moment, the next opportunity to be a part of this young lady's life, this little girl's life. How will I continue to advance what we started today in this moment? And then fourthly, reflect. Do your own reflection. Some of the most amazing people in this world are reflectors. And so I want to encourage you to reflect. And if you haven't reflected in a while, here are a couple of examples. So when you're with young girls, when you are with young women, ask yourself, what was she reaching for? What was she reaching for? How did I inspire her reach? Did I share with her that she was worth reaching for? How did I show her that? Another reflective question you can ask yourself is, what am I reaching for? Why am I reaching for that? Who's reaching back to me? And how do I feel? There's so much that goes into supporting our young women today, and looking back on what COVID has done in our society, I cannot say enough that each of us as individuals come with our own stuff, right? We've come with our own experiences. And so it is going to be so important that we ourselves also do the work so that we can have the capacity to support these young girls wholeheartedly. We want our young girls and women to have felt safety, not just this kind of, surface safety, but we want them to recognize that I am seen, I am heard, and I am safe. It is so important for our young girls to dream and to hope. Dreaming and hoping fuels them to the next level. If they are not able to do that, if they do not have partners in that, we are going to lose our young girls. I do not want to lose our young girls. A world without them is not a place that I want to be. A world where they are sad and stuck and paralyzed is not a world that I want to be in. I want to see our young girls soar. I want to see them live to their full potential. I want to be that person who is kind and firm, and I want to be that person who can tell it like it is. Will you take on that task as well? I'm going to give you an action word here. I'm going to ask you to go. Simple. I'm just going to tell you to go. And so, okay, Peaches, where am I going? I want you to go. If you haven't already, I want you to go and find a community of young girls, little girls, young girls. I want you to go and find a community of these young girls. And I want you to find all of your resources and your friends, and I want you to bring them together, unite them and collaborate in ways that only you can, if you haven't already. And I want you, within that community of young girls, I want you to remind them that they are the stars that are worth being reached for, but they're also the stars that you want to be surrounded by. And I don't want us to get so corporate that we're doing it from our offices, or we're doing it from the telephone, or we're doing it from, the satellite spaces. I want you to get your hands dirty. I want you to go and play and experience these young women. That's the only way you're going to know what they're reaching for. Don't let someone else tell you what they're reaching for. Go find out, what are young girls reaching for today? What are they dreaming about today? How can I be a source that allows them to keep dreaming, to keep hoping, to move as only they can, uniquely and beautifully? I want you to commit to these communities, to be present differently. It's not too late. I know some people are saying, well, I used to volunteer, or I used to donate, or I used to talk to, or once upon a time. It's not too late. It's not too late. There are girls all over this world who are waiting for you to show up and to be present. They need us. And they can't always get to us to tell us. And so we need to go. We need to go where they are. We need to find them, and we need to take some people with us, and we need to figure it out, and we need to do it differently. And I know, some of you are saying, okay, Peaches, give me the recipe. What does do it differently look like? Follow your heart. Listen to your heart. Listen to your heart. If you go, you'll know exactly what you tell yourself. I will not let COVID or anything else stand in the way of me helping the next generation of girls shine as bright as they possibly can. Thank you so much. I hope that this has inspired. I hope that you are thinking about how you can support the next generation, being present with them and supporting their hopes and dreams. Thank you so much. Shelley?
Thank you, Peaches. Every time I hear you speak and every time I'm in your presence, I take tons of notes and get more and more inspired. You're just go. I don't know if you saw in the chat, but somebody put in there that they have a niece that's struggling and they are going to connect right after this. So you've inspired many of us. When I think about all the great advice you gave us, that the piece that I wrote in my journal was empathy and sensitivity. How do we have hope and inspire hope? And then I also loved, they are the stars worth reaching for. I love that. Just think about the world if all of our girls thought they were the stars worth reaching for. I mean, we'd be in such a dynamic place. We've got some questions in the chat that I would love to get to. We have one of our participants says that they have a daughter who will be a freshman in college. And what suggestions do you have in balancing the advice giving versus exploration, as this can be a challenging time for parents in letting go and allowing their children to explore?
Oh, what a beautiful question, and congratulations to you. I should have also said at the beginning that I only have the one daughter, and I truly believe that God blessed me with her to keep me close to him. So I am one of those parents who understands raising girls and then having to let them go out into the world. What I would say to this particular person is, remember that she is forever connected to you. Trust what you have imparted in her. Be there for her. Be there with her. Do not try to change and incorporate something that you want her to be or do or say. Bite your tongue when it comes to giving all of that advice, and ask permission. Ask permission. Do not give unsolicited advice. Ask permission. Here's something I do with my daughter. I say to her, am I listening, or do you want me to say something? being able to lean into the discomfort of just being quiet and being a listener. She's going to call you. She's going to share some things with you. And you need to know what your role is. Is this the role? Is my posture supposed to be a listener right now? Or does she really need something different? And if she needs something different, ask her, what is that different? Mom's not sure right now what she needs to do. And at the risk of being overly protective or getting into your business, mom really needs to understand what you need in this moment. And so just embrace your baby and don't do too much. We do too much sometimes as mamas. We do too much. Don't do too much.
I have another question for you, Peaches. They want to know about how when getting young girls to talk can be challenging. And they want to know about what tips and tricks do you have to get this conversation started about the young girls' hopes and dreams?
Oh, what a great question. I play with this a lot when I'm working with young girls, because absolutely, they don't want to talk about what you want to talk about. Again, your agenda is not their agenda. And so a few ways that I've found to get them talking is that I invite them to be news reporters. Tell me what's going on in the world from their perspective. So what are you guys interested in talking about? What's going on these days? And so it could be the latest lipstick to the newest TikTok dance to whatever it is. If your true goal is to get them talking, allow them to talk about what they want to talk about until they can trust that when you begin to talk, you will not be preaching at them, that you will engage in conversation that is meaningful and helpful and supportive to what they're interested in. So many times we want to just rush in there and we want to put our agendas forward. And they just want to talk about how to do, the next step in the TikTok video. And so let's get into that TikTok video. Let's learn that step. Let's encourage it and figure out a way to get what you need in there. But their agenda is their agenda. If you need to get them talking, let them talk about what they're interested in.
I love that, to be a news reporter, to see it through their lens. I think that's just a great way to start the conversation. Kind of along that lines, we have another question about how do we, when we initiate these conversations, how do we make sure that we're not portraying our biases on the young ladies?
Believe me, you already are. We're doing it. And so we just need to be genuine and transparent about it, right? There's so many times when I'm talking to my granddaughters that I have to stop and say, that's Nana. That's the way Nana thinks. And that's, Nana doesn't always think, in this way or that way. And so I really want you to share with me, what are you thinking? How do you view that? There was, I'm trying to remember, and I'm trying to be very genuine, but also careful with some of the conversations that I've had with my granddaughters. Here lately, I'll use the term became a woman, right? One of my granddaughters became a woman. And to have that conversation with her, I wanted to make sure that her teachers were supporting her. And so as I listened to the conversation, I found out that her teachers were not supporting her. And so, I had to pull back and clench my pearls, because there were things that I wanted to say, but I was not able to say those things. And so I was able to support my granddaughter in a way that she felt safe to initiate the supports that she needed differently from her teachers, and not, well, my Nana said you. So we do it. But be upfront, be transparent about your humanness, and that you have thoughts and where your head might go and shouldn't go, and just be real. This is how we be present and show up and connect. When you're real, they will find you and talk to you about everything. But when they think they're going to get a sermon, or they think they're going to be judged or shamed, or you know it all, they're not going to come to you. They don't want to talk to you.
And I don't think they're any different than we all are, you know, when we feel judged, shamed. I think that's great advice. You talk a lot about just be open, be authentic. One of our values at the YWCA is authenticity. And so it just, every time I hear you and we're part of the Loom trainings, that just always stands out how important it is. We all come with our multi-layers and just be who we are, but always strive to be better. So love that. One final question is, how do you, that we have from a participant is, how do you lift barriers to those girls who have been given and who haven't been given an even playing field? For some, the stars can be further away than others. So how can we, as people to support them, lift some of those barriers?
Yeah, so I'm thinking about, and this is a great question, because for me, many times when I think about the barriers that have been presented, what I want to do is I don't want to always go in and feel like I'm fixing it, that I can control any of these barriers on my own. What I believe is that we can be great advocates, and that we can find our posture and our positions in our communities so we can be the voice for these young ladies. But on a more individual basis, I believe that we can inspire them so that they have the tools that they need in order to overcome and move in a way that speaks to their full potential. So like I said, I had people who were passionate about me in a way that said, you know, no matter what, Peaches, keep going, you got this. And those messages, although they, you know, have some negative impact, they had a lot of positive impact on my life. And so if we can be those encouragers, if we can be at the feet of these girls, if we can be touchable in a way, I'm using my language now, if they could reach out and touch me and know that I'm real and I can do it. She told me her story. She lived in the same community that I lived in. She had some of the same issues. However, these are some of the things that she has been able to accomplish because she wanted them. And so if we see young girls who want it and don't want it, encourage them. But first and foremost, find a community, get involved, be present, be a voice. And that's one way to get some of those barriers down. Be persistent, be loud, be bold, be kind, be firm, do all of those things within those communities. People need to hear you. They need to know that our young girls matter. Give face and names to the young girls so that people can see. We're not talking about number 7. We're not talking about a particular community. We're talking about Lakeisha Denise. That's who we're talking about.
And then I said that was a final question, but we had several that came up around the same topic. So I'm going to throw one more out there. Can you talk to us a little bit? Several of the individuals work with young women who are mothers. And they said, can you give us any words of wisdom about when we're working with teens and young women who are parents and how we can help them?
Yes. So a lot of times, teen moms or very young women with children may appear that they have a chip on their shoulder and they don't want to hear anything you have to say. And there's so many reasons behind that. And again, this could go on for hours. But what we need to be able to do is to connect with them in a way that says, yes, you are a parent, you are an adult, and you are doing the very best that you can. You are doing the best that you can. Meeting them where they are with a smile, with a hug, genuine encounters. Just like children know when you're fake, these teen mothers know when you're real and when you're fake. And if you are not the person, then move to the side and let someone else do it. But what they're really looking for, just like their children, they're looking for an emotional partner. They're looking for someone to be present, to show up for them, to listen and to hear them. And many of us will say, Peaches, I do that. And this one parent, she just. Don't take it personal. Do not take it personal. Stand your ground. Be who you are. Be steadfast, because so many people have not. The baby daddy gone, and I'm using baby daddy. Baby daddy promised, he broke his promise. Mama said, Mama broke her promise. Grandma said, grandma broke her promise. It is going to take some time for me to trust, to allow myself to have the capacity to trust you. And so as you are building this relationship of trust, as they are beginning to feel more safe, their own felt safety, not the safety that you said, this is a safe environment where you can come and talk. No, they need to have their own felt safety. When I walk in here, if I feel safe, then it's safe. So we need to remember that they're reaching. They don't know how to reach, but they're reaching. They brought their children to you for a reason. That is a reach. So how are you going to be present? How are you going to connect? How are you going to advance? And how are you going to reflect? Dig deep down on the inside and think about what I should say, what I shouldn't say. And when you mess it up, go back and say, I messed it up. Be transparent enough to say, you know what, I'm thinking about our conversation yesterday and what I said, the tone, my body language was not saying what my mouth wanted to say. And so I need to apologize to you. A lot of times these teen moms do not hear apologies, authentic apologies. They hear, I'm sorry. They don't hear authentic apologies. And so if we can practice being authentic in our apologies, letting them know that, hey, I'm trying to do this thing and I'm here for you and we're going to get through it together. When they see that they can trust you in that way, the relationship will take a turn for the better, but it's going to take some time. There's a lot of hurt. There's a lot of trauma. There's a lot that goes into being a teen mom. And again, I could talk for hours about that. I was a teen mom and that is where my heart is. I support teen mothers. Go teen moms. But it is very hard to connect with them, but you can do it. You can do it.
Thanks so much, Peaches. I know that the participants have just loved hearing from you. You gave us such great advice. And as you said, it's advice that I think all know when we pause enough, that's in our heart and we know it's what we should be doing. And so I think you've inspired a lot of people to go out there and find a tribe of young girls where they can really help support them and know that they really truly are the stars that are worth reaching for. So thank you so much for joining us today. We so appreciate it.
You're so welcome. Thank you for having me.
And now I would like to tee up our second student video, and it'll be featuring participants from the YWCA Metropolitan Chicago's Tech Girls program. So please join me in watching this video.
Mackenzie Wells and I am in the 4th grade. Today I will be telling you about my experience in Tech Girls. A lot of the things that we do is very interesting. We were able to make a bridge out of gumdrop candy and toothpicks, and we did that as we partnered up with people and we did that as a team. And we had Coca-Cola. And we were able to put Mentos in it, and we saw the reaction. Well, we saw how it reacts to Mentos being poured into it. And also another one of my favorites is when we were able to learn the magic trick. That was really interesting for me to do. So to me, Tech Girls is very interesting. I really enjoyed it, and I hope if you enter it, you enjoy it as much as I did. But thank you for listening. Bye.
Hi, my name is Payton, and I am 13 years old. I was introduced to science by my mother when I was maybe 7 or 8 years old. And my mother would do girls' science nights a lot. And after that, I love science ever since. That's one of the reasons why I wanted to be a part of the Tech Girls program, because I get to learn new things, I get to meet new people, I get to do science experiments and different activities. The instructors are also very nice, and my favorite STEM activities are elephant toothpaste, diaper dissection, and I love to make slime. I also like to be a part of the Tech Girls program because it will help me in the long run. I want to become a veterinarian, so I think that me being a part of the Tech Girls program it would really help me with that job.
I just want to know what diaper dissection is, or maybe I don't. But we're really excited to now have our panelists join us. We have an amazing group of 4 panelists here today that I think you will get tons of words of wisdom from. So I would like to welcome our panelists. Our first panelist is Sabrina Lamb. She is the founder and executive director of World of Money.
Good morning.
Morning, Sabrina. Our second panelist is Alice Jones-Kane. She is the executive director of the Mariah Fund. Welcome, Alice. Our third panelist is Constance C.J. Jones. She's the executive director of the Noble Schools. And our final panelist is Akima. She is the director and founder of Ikera Bilingual Academy. So welcome everybody, and welcome panelists. We're glad to have you here today. I'm going to jump right in, and I'd love to throw this question out to everybody on the panel. I'd love to hear from you, if you can start by where your passion for education came from. So if anybody wants to jump in and share how you got passionate about education.
I'm happy to start. So it's good to see all of you today. And I've been so inspired by the conversations I've seen happening. Well, lots of people get into education because the work is deeply personal. I know that's certainly the case for me. While I live in Chicago now, I am from North Carolina. I come from a proud family of farmers. And my mom was the only one of 8 kids to go to college and graduate from college. And she became a public school teacher for 30 years. And I have tons of cousins and family members. And I've had all of these education opportunities that a lot of my cousins and other folks did not have, only because my mom was able to further her education through a college degree, and she instilled in us this passion for teaching and learning. Same DNA, same family values and work ethic, but literally our lives have been very different. And so for me, that ignited a passion to create opportunities for students here in Chicago, where I currently serve students and families, to make sure that they have the chance to accomplish their wildest dreams, because our kids, they can do anything. They just need a shot. They just need a chance. And so it's my goal to create as many shots and chances and dreams as I can.
Thanks, CJ. Sabrina, do you want to share?
Sure. So I believe the spark for education was ignited in me when my family lived in Germany during the time of the upheaval, tumultuous time when there was a lot of change happening in America that we were not part of. So when I returned to America to live in junior high school, I was fascinated with everything that I missed. So my nickname in junior high school was Black Power, because that's what I was fascinated with. And I was determined to be a civil rights attorney and fight for Black Power. And so my mother would say, go clean your room. But I was fascinated in learning everything that I could so that I could just know everything that I missed about history.
Akima, do you want to share where your passion for education began? I think you're on mute still.
Sorry. Yeah, hi everyone. I think like everyone else, it started from a very, just almost accidentally, it's just a part of who you are. I think that as you look around and you see different social ills, different things that are going in the community, you want to be a part of being a problem solver. For me, all roads just went back to education. If you really want to get into the grassroots of things, it has to start at the foundation. And in terms of changing minds and attitudes and everything, everything that we're seeing going on in the society, when you see a new baby born or you see new children enter the classroom for the first time, it's an opportunity to make change at the very core of the society. And so that's what's exciting for me. through the work that I do with the institution that I created, you know, it feels hopeful. Every time that you're in the classroom and you're in front of some student that is exploring and questioning and everything and helping them work through what could be their contribution to this, to whatever's going on, either now, present, or whatever future problem. For me, it's about education. It's not always in a classroom. Sometimes it's just, you know, in every corner. It's on your block. It's with your neighbors. It's with everyone. I think it's something that ultimately all of us are involved in, you know, no matter what our roles are, our titles are, you know, our different positions in life, we are all educators. And now it's just a challenge to be an educator that is leading to positive change in the future. So
Thank you. Alice.
So I have always been a very avid reader from, you know, as long as I can remember. And that love of reading inspired me to become a literacy tutor starting in high school, and really learning the stories of my students who were learning to read late in life is what inspired me to try to help more people get a great education up front so they wouldn't be learning to read at age 50 or 60 or 65 in the cases of many of my students.
I need to give a shout out to my inspiration in my education passion was Mrs. Frank. I was a horrible speller in second grade. She was my English teacher, and she had me believe that I was the best student in her class because she just inspired so much confidence, even though my spelling was atrocious. So I always give my start in education to Mrs. Frank. So I'd love to, Ellis, ask you to share your perspective from the perspective of the philanthropic community. What has been helpful, do you think, in getting that community to really understand the importance of girls' education? Is there particular pieces of data that you have found that is helpful, or how do we get them engaged?
That's a great question. Thank you, Shelley. You know, I think it's getting the philanthropic community involved and understanding is really a combination of both the head and the heart of the challenges and opportunities out there for girls. You know, I see data sort of on the head side of it. You know, it is incredibly powerful. An example of that for the Mariah Fund, we support an organization called Little Sisters Fund in Nepal. And it works to provide an education to girls in Nepal, particularly from rural areas that are, you know, really at risk of child marriage, child labor, child trafficking. So it's not just providing academics, but, you know, in a lot of ways, it's really saving their lives. And some data that was very compelling to us was particularly around child marriage. And the girls who participate, well, in Nepal, 40% of girls outside of Kathmandu marry by age 14. And so, you know, huge problem. Of girls that participate in Little Sisters, 99% who marry after age 25. So talk about life outcomes. It's just tremendous. 25% of girls in Nepal graduate high school overall. 98% of Little Sisters graduate high school. So, you know, outcomes like that, it sort of becomes a no-brainer for us as funders to try to support efforts that are making such a clear and measurable difference. So there's the head side, but then, you know, the heart side, just like the stories that we saw in the videos today, when you hear directly from people whose lives have been changed from the program. I mean, that's a big part of it too.
Great, thank you. CJ, I'm interested to hear your perspective. In this past year has been anything but normal in the education field. What pivots have you had to make in your role of leading the schools? And, what is the biggest lesson that you've taken away from this last year?
It's a great question. This past year has been so hard for so many people, particularly the students and families that we serve here in Chicago and Noble. And I'll start with the biggest thing that I've learned is that while there's been great challenges and we have to acknowledge the challenges, we cannot act like those don't exist. And in my role, we have a responsibility to help people navigate this pandemic and provide for their needs, whether it's their learning needs, whether it's their food needs or other needs. When we sign up to serve the communities we serve, I mean, we're all in. We have a responsibility to be all in. And those supports are necessary for our kids to be able to learn. But I've learned that despite the significant challenges, there have been incredible opportunities for us to learn and grow and get better as an organization. The one thing I'm hopeful for is that whether it's a system of schools or companies or businesses, that we avoid this snapback. Like once this pandemic is over, we just go back to doing business as usual. We cannot do that. We've learned so much. So some of the things that we've learned is that technology is a must, and access to technology and internet is a must for the communities we serve, which are high need communities here in Chicago. So every student that comes to us will get a Chromebook from the moment that they enter our buildings, either as a middle schooler in 6th grade or as a 9th grader in high school. And we are also committing to providing wireless internet access. We've been doing that throughout the course of this pandemic. And so that's one way that we have evolved our model. But we also use this as a time, given everything happening throughout our country, to really take a step back and figure out, like, how do we really truly live our value of diversity, equity, inclusion, and a deeper commitment to becoming an anti-racist organization. And so as we've talked about and heard from Peaches, like the importance of building young girls, their confidence and filling their cups, like what are the policies and practices that we have here that prohibit our kids and particularly our girls from doing that? And so we had a uniform policy, and we solicited the advice of thousands of our students and our parents to figure out, like, is that the best thing to have here at Noble? And we realized that we needed to evolve. So we don't have that uniform policy anymore. We provided this dress code to honor some of the things that were really important to our students and families regarding affordability and safety, but really provides opportunity for girls to show up and express themselves and to be their whole selves. And so that's one thing that we did to change and evolve. But we learned that through great challenge comes tremendous opportunity. How are we maximizing the opportunity so that we are going back into buildings and we are we're better in service to the people that we serve.
I love that about 2 points you made about not snapping back to the way it was. I think there's been so much learning this past year, as you talked about, that we would be doing ourselves a great injustice if we just went back. And I love that you've started kind of from the inside out in reflecting on your own policies and what you can do to support the girls and the families in your program. Thanks for sharing that. Kima, you have done amazing work and you've started an academy from the ground up. I'd love to hear a little bit about what was your inspiration and motivation for starting the academy?
Well, initially, am I on? Okay. Well, initially, I had moved to Senegal in the early 90s. And then when I started, to grow a family, we actually started in the States, in the Maryland area. And I am the mom of boys. I have a whole football team. So I have 6 boys and a girl, mashallah. So we were raising them. And then it just became aware to me that after, I don't know how many centuries, it took me to get back to the continent, myself, and to marry this wonderful Senegalese man, that my children were growing up and they were just affected by their environment and had not the love and passion for, their African culture, definitely were on the fence about their Islamic identity as well. And so I moved back with them. By the time I moved back with them, there was not the kind of institution that I wanted for them, one where they could feel comfortable and grow and learn each day, culturally speaking, spiritually speaking. They also were Americans in that they had been used to that kind of education, that kind of educational norm in terms of the pedagogical approaches and everything. And so I always say that, in necessity is the mother of invention. I needed it. I needed it for my own children. We were hoping that would be a niche for others, and it just exploded. Until ICRA came on the scene, in terms of religious education, we have something called daras. And so that really accustoms you, familiarizes you with the Islamic culture. You learn the Quran and everything, but it's not really college preparatory in any sense. And so we needed to do something that was a gap. A lot of our parents had grown up in the French system, and they had tutors come to their homes. But in this growing age, we just knew that there needed to be more of a connection between home life, school life, and just your values that you live with from day to day. And so ICRA came about with about 20 students. I always say that 4 of them were my own. We're currently reaching 600 students, and we have a goal to be at 1,500 by the start of the school year. And so I was thinking, just in terms of the question that was proposed by by the panelists, the discussions, we received them, and it's interesting to me because my girls are excelling, and we're between nursery and 12th grade. Maybe at the younger level, lower school, they're very competitive. They're the ones that are getting all the honor rolls, the presidential. And for me, the war, in terms of continuing to have girls in school, to be excellent in school, really starts at the middle school level, from middle school through 12th grade. We have a lot of success stories there, but I always think about what does it look like on the front end? On the front end, it looks like our girls are powerhouses. They are the ones that are fierce across the campus. They are assuming all the leadership roles. They're getting the scholarships, the opportunities to do internships in the community and such. But it's also important to know what's going on in the back end for them, because that story is a lot different for girls than for what's going on with boys. I think a lot of the times that they strive so hard is because they have been given such an enormous amount of responsibility from a young age, different from what is going on with our boys. Maybe, they're anime. This is the anime generation. They're allowed to, to go into their different distractions. And that's, at a certain point, I feel like it's hurting them. I think that they have this cultural thing that boys will be boys, eventually they'll pull up. But as they grow older, it's getting a lot more, creating a lot more anxiety for families, because a lot of them are not clicking. They're passing, but they're not going for the goal. And the girls who have been able to juggle so many things in their social lives, they're taking care of the family. They're preparing to be future wives. They know that this is a huge investment for their parents, whether they're coming back from the States, their parents who left with their cultural values intact. They're raising these children. By the time they look around and they see Fatima, Muhammad, look at them cross-eyed or walk away, and they're like, they get them back on a plane real quick. That's when ICRA steps in. But at that point too, these kids are highly ambitious. They don't know all the aspects of the culture just because their parents didn't have enough time. And it wasn't a community effort as it was for their parents when it was growing up. So they get back on our grounds, and now they're hit with the social, the cultural norms, the religious norms in the area. They have to be, people are in their personal space. We get that all the time. You don't have any personal space, and you're there to, help with the well functioning of the family as well. And you better hold it down. So the girls live with this threat that if they don't maneuver everything, in terms of being excellent.
Oh, I think you went on mute.
Oh, I'm sorry. If they're not excellent everywhere, that can be pulled for them at any time. And that's so much different from my boys. I've had one girl, her uncle was there and say, "You're here because your aunties think you're smart and you've been, performing brilliantly, but don't get it twisted. Your husband is waiting for you. If you don't maximize this opportunity, you will be back in the village like tomorrow, and this all will end." So that kind of anxiety, that our girls face, sometimes they're in the sense of depression. Not many of the schools in the area have this sort of guidance counselor and emotional support that our girls need. So to be able to provide that for them on the campus is life-changing, because they're in a cultural class. It doesn't matter what their name is, what their heritage by roots of their family. It's unfamiliar to them. But you need leaders in the community that can be mentors that are socially sensitive. When they tell stories about what's going on in their home life, you can't be there gagging and, oh my God, how could, you have to get them, because it's a part of who they are. And they have to be, happy about that essence of them, that part of their family, even while they're reaching for their own stars. So
yeah, thank you for that. I just want to make sure we get on to some other questions. It sounds like you have amazing groundwork in the communities to help the participants in the academy reach for the stars. So Sabrina, I want to pivot a little bit, and I want to talk a little bit about your area of expertise, financial literacy and economic equity. Studies have shown that women who lack financial knowledge oftentimes can find themselves victims of financial abuse. How do you talk to, and how can we all talk to girls to help them start on a journey that develops really healthy financial identities for the girls?
Well, Shelley and everyone, first we have to understand that financial education is it's not a one size fits all. I remember in class at the World Money Institute, and one of my students, she was from Colombia, or her family is from Colombia, and she was very uncomfortable. Her body language, she was just expressed not being comfortable having a discussion about her own financial security or achieving wealth. And so I asked to speak with her privately, and she shared, we don't have this kind of conversation in my family. My mother, her name is not on any financial document. My father makes all the financial decisions for our family, and we have zero, my mother and I have zero voice. So, I had to tread gently because this is her family. But I asked her, so how do you envision your life 5 to 10 years from now if you were to have financial education? And I could see where she kind of sighed and she kind of relaxed, and with the glimmer of hope that she could have a voice. We see at World of Money, this discussion regarding financial education is seeing yourself of value, because if you don't believe your life is worth saving, you will not save one nickel. And so we pour into our girls and boys the reality, the fact that they are perfect. And no one has told them that they are perfect as they are. Because a lot of our expenditures are based upon filling the emptiness in our soul so that we can feel like we matter. And so, again, as we approach financial education, we have to look at it from a holistic, whole child, whole girl, family, network, community, and then address those idiosyncrasies to try to turn that light on for that girl and that boy, because she's gonna have families maybe, or go out into the world, so they can have choices and feel that they can speak truth to whatever financial power that says, here's a document with fine print. Maybe it's something on TikTok. You have a right to say no. And no is a complete sentence. So the relationship with money and how we speak about money is how we feel that we can address the so-called powers. Because when I hear the term truth to power, I'm saying, but I'm the power. So is it truth to me? And that's what we tell children. You're perfect as you are. You don't have to spend one more nickel, and you have the right to say no, or you have the right to say, this is a scam or whatever. But we have to identify the cultural and the mindset idiosyncrasies of girls. And of course, because World of Money serves boys as well.
Great, that's phenomenal. One of the things I'm realizing is we could have done an hour-long panel with all of you ladies. So I'm going to try to get in a couple more questions here. So Alice, the Mariah Fund really supports human rights and social justice, two causes that we've seen young activists be very intentional about this past year. What have you seen this past year in the young activists. How is the Mariah Fund supporting them in their work? And what are you learning from that support and those investments?
Oh, we're learning so much. And so very quickly, a few of the ways we support young activists. One is through a relatively new organization, Civics Unplugged, started by young people. It's a nonprofit that empowers leaders in Generation Z to build the future of democracy. And they are working with youth in 47 countries, including South Africa, Nigeria, Tanzania, Egypt, Senegal, and Kenya. And CU supports them in developing themselves and supporting their growth as individuals, as leaders, and then really serving their community and the world around them. 74% of these young people identify as young women. 70% identify as BIPOC. They are off and running, and we're working on building the connections between them in different countries. A second way Mariah supports young activists is through a global nonprofit called Narrative 4 that works with young adults in, I believe, 17 countries at this point, including South Africa, Ireland, Israel, and Palestine. And they connect them through storytelling and story exchanges and bring young people together with very different lived experiences. Before the pandemic, they connected young people from Eastern Kentucky and the Bronx here in New York, who, when they got together in person, sort of initially thought they didn't have very much in common. And as they told their stories, they became very close. And when the pandemic hit New York hard, the kids in Eastern Kentucky sent care packages immediately. Later, when New York was recovering and Eastern Kentucky was hit harder, they did the same thing. And so they built these bonds that we hope will be lasting as they learn what they have in common and to look past each other's surfaces, so to speak. And then a third way we support young activists is in Afghanistan through the School of Leadership for Young Girls, founded by a young woman who was in grade school when the Taliban took over in the 90s. They swept into power and banned girls' education. So she and her family joined a network of secret schools, really risking their lives to go to school. She came to college in the US later, went to Oxford, and then returned to Kabul, where she founded a school with women teachers. Something like 70% of the provinces in Afghanistan do not have a single female teacher. Her school focuses on women teachers and really mentoring young girls to be the leaders that her country needs for tomorrow. So those are three quick examples of the kind of supports we do. What we've learned is, one, let the kids lead. They know what they need. They have the answers. I think this is a theme we've heard multiple times today, as from Peaches and others. It's their agenda, and we need to support them in pursuing their agenda, not try to pull them into ours. And then, as CJ said, what we see over and over, the kids can do anything, and they are the stars. And we see that over and over. So I will leave it at that. Happy to answer more questions in the chat or anything else if that's helpful.
Great. CJ, since we're running a little close on time, I just would like to, if you could briefly share with us, I think it's really important that educators have a sense of gender awareness when they're working with young girls. Any thoughts about how, as educators, we can support that to making sure that we're open to how girls need to learn and develop?
Great question. First, it starts off with, what do we believe? Like, before we start putting any type of systems or structures or practices in place, like as an organization that serves 13,000 students, we have to get really clear about what we believe, because that's going to drive everything. And so I mentioned earlier our commitment to diversity, equity, inclusion. We've put a lot of thought and intentionality into that commitment and into our commitment to anti-racism. We built these things by listening to the people we serve. And it includes lots of aspects of diversity, but particularly gender diversity, whether you're male, female, or fluid. So we have to get really clear about what we believe first and foremost. And secondly, we have to listen. And I cannot underscore this enough. It's been said so many times, but when we listen, we then put things in place that will truly serve the communities that we serve well. And even just listening to Sabrina talk about financial literacy, and I had so many light bulbs go off as she was talking about the mindsets behind that. One of the things we did in our anti-racist efforts was we evolved our promotion policies, and through listening to the students and families we serve, to the girls that we serve, they were like, we need financial literacy. And now it's a part of our promotion requirements, so that every student, every high school we serve will see Sabrina, but that's what they need, and that's what they wanted. And we have a responsibility to serve them. And so we've also created spaces. And I can't emphasize enough too how important it is during these developmental years for our girls to have spaces where they truly feel safe, secure, and loved. We have an advisory program where our girls will start off with an advisory and a teacher, and that program follows them throughout their entire high school career. They actually graduate with their advisory, and it's just a safe space where girls can share some of their successes, some of their fears, and really develop a community. And we also do special events to honor women and for them to see women leaders. And so a few of my schools have these women's empowerment events that are just for the female students, and they get to come together and receive inspiring talks and connect with other women leaders throughout the city of Chicago. And I'd be remiss if I didn't mention, it is important that our students and our girls, they see themselves in every aspect of leadership throughout the organization, whether it's within their teachers, as myself as a CEO. I was the first woman of color in the history of the organization to serve on the leadership team. And I'm really happy that 2.5 years later, after being CEO, that over half of my leadership team are women and women of color specifically. That matters to our kids. They need to be able to see themselves in order to understand truly that it is possible for them too. And so there are lots of ways that we can support our girls through creating spaces, through opportunity. But a lot of this starts off by getting really clear about what we believe needs to be true for all of our students we serve, but particularly our girls.
Thank you. I just want to share, Sabrina, one final question for you. Your secret sauce is, can you, in a couple words, share with us how you've built confidence? I think the secret sauce of World of Money that I've seen is really how you have been able to build the self-esteem and confidence level of your moguls. Can you talk to us a little bit, give us a couple tips about how you've done that?
2 things, day 1, minute 1, I each go around to every student at World of Money. With 172, it takes a little bit long, but look them in their eye, ask for their eyes, and say, you are perfect as you are. And when in every opportunity, give our girls and our boys the mic. Give them the tools, eradicate ageism, eradicate lowering the standards. They feel that they're suffering from low expectations in buildings that have education as a title to it. So those are the 3 things, and they just give us the mic, give us the baton so we can run, and give us the tools so we can fly.
Akima, do you want to close us out by sharing a little bit about what you envision in a couple words about the future of girls' education going forward?
Hi, thank you. I just wanted to, if I had the opportunity, I would love to touch on something that Peaches said earlier, and I see a lot of people in the comments area saying that, we also need our young men, our boys, we need to encourage our boys. They need to have their own cheerleaders behind them, but we need to encourage them to root for our girls at all levels, that these brothers, these future fathers, these community influencers, they're a huge part of the puzzle. I think they have to change the game, change their mindsets as well, in terms of helping us to promote. When they see these girls excelling amongst them, we don't need them to have this attitude of competition or jealousy or anything. But to be their raw section, to get behind them, and we see them having this motherly type role, bringing them forward, even the young men, and they're usually their caterers, they're caretakers to that extent. So they know how to go for excellence, and they know how to take people with them. But it's also correcting the mindset of our young men as well. I'm really excited about the future of girl leadership, in terms of even what's going on in the continent, the fact that we have so many women leaders going into presidential positions, things that are not being duplicated in the West and other places around the world. Our girls have excellent leaders. I look at this panelist, this beautiful, dynamic, powerful panelist. We have the type of inspiration amongst us all, but it's now just to get behind them with that social emotional support, being that liaison between their families, bridging the gaps between what it is that they want and the expectations upon them, and how they're being torn in so many different directions, and to get them to be is mentally stable. We can't check out, and we can't forget about the mental, how important it is for them to have that mental stability and support behind them. It's not only about their hearts, but their minds are tied in so many different directions. And we see people that have all the potential in the world, but at some point as they grow up, they're going to have to make choices. And that choice needs not ever be that they need to stand alone, that wherever, whether they're in the inside or the outside, they always have a support group. And so I'm excited to continue working with these beautiful people that I see here at all the different levels. And I think that's all about our connections, that wherever our girls go in the world, they know that they have dynamic people that will get behind them. And that's going to make the difference for them, I believe.
I love that the choice should never be that they have to stand alone. I'm going to take that. I love that words of wisdom. So I wish we had another hour with this panelist. They've been phenomenal. Thank you. There's so many more questions I have for you all, but we'll have to schedule part 2. I would like to just turn it over to Sabrina to introduce our final video and go from there.
Nia Alvarez Mack is a 2010 graduate of World of Money. When she first attended, she was experiencing bullying, being ignored, suffering from low expectations from the educational system that she was in. She was diagnosed as a non-learner. So as we saw her bloom like a beautiful flower at World of Money, and to accept that she was perfect as she is and was, she started to use her voice in the world, and eventually just became a catalyst for so much change, not only in education, but here in New York City. And we named our Community Service Award for the Infinite Future, the Nia Alvarez Mack Community Service Award, because of how she's leveraged her own challenges to empower others. Welcome, Nia.
World of Money is an organization that not only teaches financial literacy, but it teaches that the impossible can become possible. It shows nuanced supports, and it also brings in guidance to people, places, and things that you may or may not have ever heard of, or you didn't really understand the true grasp of what is being done. It gives you a better insight of potentials that can possibly happen and make you a better person of who you are going to be. And really, I am grateful for World of Money for showing that type of feeling, not only to me, but to the other classmates I had. And I see them every day and they're doing amazing things. And I'm really also proud to be one of those people that do amazing things as well. But I just know with World of Money, I can be able to do more. And that's also why I am really proud that I am I have a scholarship in World of Money called the Alvarez Mack Scholarship of Community Service, because with the encouragement of World of Money, I'm able to do groundbreaking things such as I'm a girl with dysgraphia who now has a full ride at Union Theological Seminary, who is focusing on our writing plans. I'm currently working on a book. I also went to Rwanda before I even went to college, teaching poetry. Because those things I would have never thought or dreamed I could do until then. And really just all the potential that has happened and the domino effects that I have caused, because I never listened to anyone I never doubted myself. And the idea of doubting myself and using my education as a tool to prove all the doubters wrong has been so amazing ever since.
Wow, what an inspirational video. I want to thank all of our participants and attendees today. And if you want to learn more about the programs or to support the YWCA Metropolitan Chicago by making a tax-deductible donation, you can visit our website, which is ywcachicago.org. And lastly, I want to turn it over to our dear friend Stanley to close us out for today.
Thank you, Shirley. And thank you to our speakers, panelists, and attendees. Thank you for making our event possible. It couldn't be possible without you. This is what I call a great event. I told you to listen to the stories, and I can tell you the stories shared today can change the world. Peaches, I agree with you that girls need people around them who are empathetic. They need emotional and social support. And that's why emotional development is one of the interventions of our leadership program. I agree it's part of preparing girls to realize their full potential. I really appreciate the great and innovative thoughts and experiences from our panelists. Constance, I couldn't agree with you more that the pandemic or no pandemic, access to technology is a must for the communities we serve. And there's more we can do for people using technology. Nishakima, congratulations on running a successful school that is providing a lot of opportunities for girls, and that goes for Alice. Funding is a very critical resource for supporting the dreams of young girls. It's an active ingredient for the progress we hope to achieve for girls. And thank you so much. Sabrina, I know you're just a powerful leader, and helping girls with financial literacy skills builds confidence and makes you even more powerful. As we continue to reconfigure our roles in the world through the scourge of a deadly pandemic, today's conversation paves way for more creativity and innovativeness and leads to the many solutions we seek for our communities. I encourage you to visit our website at www.acfegroup.org. Learn more about our work, read the stories, and donate to one of our programs, either by helping a child pay for tuition, pay for school shoes or uniforms, stationery, or help us provide lunch for the school children who walk long distances to school. With your help, we can change the world for children in remote rural communities in Zimbabwe. You heard this from Peaches. Go and find a community of young girls, find out what they're dreaming about today, and see how you can support them. Again, I'm grateful for your unwavering support, and we look forward to a probable in-person event in 2022. Stay safe, everyone, and thank you so much.